Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Mindful Warrior podcast. My name is Nate Jackson. Sitting next to me here in this room is Eben Britton. Eben's a 30-year-old man, very large man, born in Brooklyn and raised in LA. I'm 38 years old, born and raised in San Jose, California. So what are we doing in this room together, you ask? Good question. We have a few things in common. Football and marijuana. We both played in the NFL for 6 years. I was a wide receiver and a tight end. Eben was a tackle. And we both believe in cannabis as a natural medicine. It helped both of us while we played. And we've spoken about it publicly, which put us in the same room a lot. Football's over for us, but life is not. So we decided to create the Mindful Warrior podcast so that we, a couple of brutes, could interview other athletes and allow them to share their stories without having to go through the mainstream sports media to do it. Eb, brother, I'm honored to be starting this project with you. Are you excited to be in the studio?
Very excited to be here in the studio. We've got Jed Bauer, our producer. We've got Gandalf the Grey, our pit bull. And we're having a good old time.
Heck yeah, we are, man. This is cool.
So I think, just so we don't have to go through both our histories from start to finish. Maybe we should do that anyway at some point. But, I really related when I read your book for the first time, Slow Getting Up. For any of you guys listening that haven't read Nate's book, you should do yourself a favor to get yourself a glimpse of what life in the NFL is really like as an athlete, as a human being. But that feeling as a little kid I remember being at my grandparents' house in Connecticut, watching the news and seeing shots on the news as small and subtle as they were of the Jets and the Giants in training camp, and just being blown away and in awe and like, this is what I want to do. I couldn't have been more than 10 years old. And I just knew that was something I wanted to dive into. I wanted to be a gladiator on TV, in this physical game, playing football. It seemed amazing to me. I don't know. I think that, I don't know if there was much more than that as a kid, because I sure as hell didn't understand the reality of, the violence of it and the physicality of it. That sort of I grew into that.
But you sort of knew that it was violent and physical.
Yeah.
You were probably a pretty rough kid.
Yeah.
You were bigger than people, or you liked to tussle.
Yeah, for sure.
And the football attracts those kids.
It does.
I was the same way. I'm not as big as you, so I was more of like wanting to run with the ball. Did you have that? Did you want to run with the ball, or did you just want to fuck people up?
I did want to run with the ball, and I was really bummed when I got stuck at O-line, because my freshman year of football, I went out for quarterback. I'm really bummed when I got this big. I just wouldn't stop growing. Yeah, and the coaches are like, dude, you have a future as an offensive lineman, so I think, we should try you there. Right. And, I was still growing into my body. We were doing 40s one day. Everybody's running their 40s. My first 40 ever, I ran a 6'3" 40. I was like, is that good? What do you guys think? Is that good? And they're like, it's all right.
Yeah, but you know what? Offensive linemen don't really need that foot speed.
No, they don't.
Typically, a really fast offensive lineman is like, what, 5'5"?
I ran a 4.98 at the combine.
Well, then you're a really fucking fast.
I was a fast O-lineman, my dude.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
You're the tweener, man. The guy that can put in a tight end and throw a ball.
In Chicago, they started putting me at tight end. That was some of the most fun I ever had.
Yeah.
It
changes the dynamic of the game when the ball comes to you.
Yeah.
And you actually
that was terrifying. I got one ball thrown to me. Oh, no, wait. Against the Lions, I got a ball thrown to me in the end zone. Got batted down.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was close.
Was it a good throw?
It was. I would have caught it for a touchdown if the dude hadn't been there.
So on that play, do you sell run at all, or do you just
So what I did was I avoided the D end.
Right.
I avoided him. I took a step in. It was a beautiful route I ran. I spent all week working on this one route.
Love it.
I took one step in and then went right to the back pylon.
Yeah.
And he just floated me the ball. I looked up. There it was. It's coming. My hands go up. Boom. Ball gets slapped down.
By some fast-ass DB pursuing it?
Some DB who came out of nowhere.
Fast.
Yeah, they're amazing.
If you float it up, then they're going to get under it, unless you're wide open.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part when you know you got a ball coming to you. You know it's a trick play. And, did you have to check in? Like,
I did. I always had to check in.
Right.
Yeah. I started being that eligible 6th lineman.
That was at the end of your career, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, you came out of what year did you get drafted?
2009. Drafted to the Jags, 39th overall, second-round pick. First round was Eugene. We come in as the rookie tackles to sort of reinvigorate the O-line, reinvigorate the offense. Week 1, we ended up being the first rookie tackle tandem, I think, ever to start week 1. Gave up 0 sacks to the Colts. Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, 2 of the best to do it.
And not even very big guys.
No.
Both of them under 6 feet.
Yeah, you play them. Yeah, I mean, they're, 6 foot, but, I mean...
Whirling dervishes.
Yeah, and they will run you over, too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're strong as hell. And so, I don't know, where were we? We were talking about getting when
you got drafted, Yeah, in 2009.
Yeah, and I really, they brought me in to play... I think they really were hoping I could be a guard, but it was too much as, my entire career I'd just been a tackle. Right, and then left my last year at Arizona. And so making that transition at that level with that playbook, my head was spinning. I couldn't do it. So
what are the things you have to learn as a tackle when you go to a new team? What are the things that you care most about studying-wise?
The
run game or the pass game?
The pass protections are so crucial in the NFL. I mean, especially for me, that was my pass protection. I was definitely a run blocker. I was an aggressive, forward-moving, explosive blocker.
Right.
Playing tackle, pass blocking against defensive ends who are some of the best athletes on an NFL team, or these DNs sometimes. I mean, pass protection was definitely where I needed to work the hardest. And the great thing about an NFL offense is a lot of those playbooks, they're very aware of that. And, if you are a smart player, like I was, I tried to use every advantage I possibly could. And I think that, you can attest to that once you get to that level, every guy is like, you're watching a 6-inch step on film, like what that matters.
Right. And you got a laser pointer on it, and everyone in the room is sitting there watching you get dissected for 6 inches to the right.
Every day.
So there's a language that you got to learn.
There is.
It's a totally different language from the real world.
Totally different language.
But submerged in that life, you the pass protections are very intricate. People don't really understand that, right?
Yeah, I don't think you have any clue. I mean, they're so intricate. From the difference, a pass protection is a different name based on whether or not a tight end is staying in the block or a running back is staying in the block. Or if you've got nobody staying in, or if you've got chip help, or if you've got a running back who's manned up on a linebacker inside. Well, you had to make the transition from receiver to tight end.
Yeah, that was really hard.
That was a beast.
That was a beast, man.
I know that.
All I wanted to do was be out there catching balls, running, shaking. I didn't mind mixing it up and blocking and stuff because I played special teams. I was okay with that. But blocking as a receiver is very different from blocking as a part of the line.
Yeah.
You said, you were an attacker, forward.
Yeah.
Receivers don't really block like that. We got a stock block in a sense. You break down and you kind of let them make their play.
Yeah.
You can't do that on the line.
No.
I tried to do that right off the bat, like a tight end, and I just got my fucking dick ripped off.
Yeah, you get fucked up.
Rip off his fucking dick and shove it up his ass, Nate! Fucking bite him in the fucking throat. That's what I was hearing, and I was having to watch it on film.
What are you
every day to watch yourself get destroyed on film and then go and watch it with your friends.
Oh my God. It's
And then you're like,
nightmare.
and yeah, I had some rough days, but worked it out, man. It's trial by fire. You got to learn. So I learned how to shoot off, man, how to shoot my head into them like a fucking missile and try to stalemate them. And
well, that's a great method.
Yeah, go for the neck, go for the throat.
Yeah.
And just hit them as hard as I could. But what people will have this misconception that all football players are dumb. We get that a lot. You're stupid.
It's old.
What you just explained, though, about the detail of the playbook and the complicated language that we learned, we're definitely not stupid, but we are contained in this one bubble of knowledge where the only things that we do get to learn are the things that are fed to us or allowed to get to us, and that's football terminology, speaking in football cliches,
thinking in football ways,
reciting the lines that were given to us,
believing in your gods, your coaches.
Right. And it's a really weird system. And Eben and I have connected based on this collective realization that we were involved in this thing that was fucked up in so many ways, but was also so instinctive. As kids, we were pulled to the game. We fell in love with it.
It's a beautiful game in many ways, but the realities are hideous. It's it's much more vast than we even get a chance to see on Sundays. That it's such the Sunday football games, the Monday night shit, now Thursday nights. It's such a Mickey Mouse Disneyfied cartoon version of what's actually happening, on a day-to-day basis. This is really, it's one of the, coming out of that world, I don't think I ever realized, too, what a finely tuned, well-oiled machine these teams are, for the most part, as functioning organizations, as companies, and how they work and the intricacies of these things. To get 53 guys aligned to do something every day, to show up to 6 different meetings on a daily basis, that's fucking pretty impressive. You get all those guys together, there's an agenda, there's ideas, there's goals, and you're trying to come together to do this thing, win a championship. I'm sure that's the same
always
throughout,
the goal,
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that plastered on every team's fucking locker room somewhere?
Yeah.
Win the division, win the Super Bowl, win the championship. That's what it's all about, really.
But in Jacksonville, they never
won. Started a very young franchise. Started in '95. I got there in 2009. Jack Del Rio was my head coach, who I loved to death. Really, to be honest with you, Jack was awesome players coach. Really, I felt like he was a great leader of that team. Things started to fall apart later on over the next couple of years, and he was fired. The team was sold to a guy named Shad Khan. He hired Mike Malarkey for my last season there. Mike lasted 1 year. We went 1-15 or 2-14. It was a good year. Really good year. I was benched midway through following my ankle just being shredded, and it was fun.
There's nothing worse than the NFL after a loss.
Oh, my God.
It's like very brutal.
It's like there's been a death.
Worse.
It is worse. It's like worse. A massacre.
Yeah.
It was like it's like hundreds of people died.
Because everyone's worried that they're going to get fired. And everyone's like pointing fingers or like looking around at who they can kind of blame for it. And someone a lot of times does get it's like a ceremonial beheading of a couple people who have to go after a string of losses. Sometimes you see like a special teams coach, like a special teams unit has a bonehead play. The coach gets fired the next day.
Yeah,
it's
symbolic.
Horrible.
It's
coaches,
true.
Coaches have no
true.
ability to develop their own routines, to start their own systems because the heat on them is so high.
Yeah,
they don't have time.
That's I feel like is it exacerbated by the current times?
100%.
Where it's like, if you don't win this year, you're fucking done.
It's the media, man.
It's crazy.
It's the media. It's ESPN. They put so much heat and so much weight on every game. Yeah. If you lose Losing is a taboo on ESPN, whereas in sports and in life, it's a fucking risk you take when you perform. If you want to get in that arena, you either win or you lose. As an athlete, you know how to lose.
In life,
losing's okay. But on ESPN, it's not okay. If you lose, you got to answer for it, and then you got to cut someone to show how bad you really want it.
You should be ashamed for losing.
And that's where they fail us these days. That's where these people on TV yelling about sports, which trickles down to the parents, which trickles down to youth coaches and high school coaches, and it's turned into a pursuit of excellence or perfection even, where loss is unacceptable. And if you don't lose the way they want you to lose and have a certain look on your face or have certain remorse or say the right things.
You know what's really interesting about this? Because I do agree with you, and I see that myself. And I think that when I was coming out of high school, you were really seeing this evolution in how this whole thing was approached with the emergence of like Rivals.com and all of these things that are grading kids on how good they are in high school. Like how good a kid is as a player in high school means fucking nothing. I mean, I played with a ton of 5-star guys who were going to USC, UCLA. They disappeared. They never even made it to the NFL. I don't even know if I ever ended up playing against any of these guys during my career in the Pac-10. You know, but to that point, though, there is that. There's this overindulgence and this ego-driven thing of who's the best, what's this guy rated, this ranking system. But at the same time, you know, we have an epidemic in this country, too, of participation awards and trophies for just showing up and being mediocre and being a slapdick.
Aren't they part of the same equation? Probably. Because
I guess so.
They've got to be, because
they
there's
have
one.
to be,
because as the extremists push so hard to reward those who are the best, they make those who aren't feel bad so much, and they make the parents of those people feel bad, and those the parents of the losers who create the participation trophies.
Yeah, not
the winners.
That's true.
You know, and so this is this it's toppling the system, which used to be based on the kids.
Right.
You know, let them perform, let them compete. We're going to hang out and watch and cheer.
Yeah.
But we're going to let them do their thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like so much participation from people outside of the arena, off the field. It's sad. To the athlete, sport is an art, and to the analyst, it's math, essentially. And so they're always
it's something
equating.
To critique. It's something to
and the numbers allow
judge.
you to do that.
Yeah.
And the numbers give you authority when you do that.
Exactly.
If you did not have the numbers, you don't have any experience. Who the fuck are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like these people who are telling you how to do it.
Yeah. That's a very interesting take on that. And I think it's real and valid.
But Eben and I passed, actually. We never played in the NFL at the same time.
We didn't.
We passed like 2 trains in the night, except both of those trains stopped at the Playboy Mansion. And that's where we first met. Yeah. And then he got drafted, and I was out of the league, and we ran into each other a couple of years ago.
You went off to be a writer. I had my football career, a lot of pain, injuries.
That's right. But a lot of glory, right?
A lot of glory, a lot of high times, too.
Right.
No pun intended.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or maybe it was.
Yeah.
Because the way me and Eben came together was cannabis, marijuana, ganja, weed, whatever you say. It doesn't, whatever the name is that comes to mind, because there's a lot in the semantics these days about what you call it. But we found relief with it while we played. And we have learned since we've stopped that there's a science to that. There's actually a reason why we preferred it over some of the other medications that we were given and that we became dependent on, that we tried to use just to get on the field and just to stay on the field. And
it's absolutely right. Yeah, Nate and I, so the second time our paths crossed as cannabis comes into the picture is I'm recently retired, not sure at all what I'm going to be doing with my life, who I am as a person. I'm slowly slipping into an abyss of depression and anxiety in my first year out of the league. And a guy named Kyle Turley, another former pro football player, who is a cannabis advocate, to say the least, does a number of things, good friend of both Nate and I's at this point. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, man, I'd love it if you came out to this conference. This is a cannabis conference. I'm launching my new group called the Gridiron Cannabis Coalition, and I'd love it if you join me on this panel to talk about your experience dealing with injuries and pain and cannabis and, what that was like. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess. I wasn't exactly sure at that point. At that time, I had just written a couple articles for SI.com in their editorial section called The Cauldron, just about my experience dealing with injuries and drugs, and weed was in there, Adderall was in there, talked about some of my more substantial injuries, and then another article was about everyday life as a player in December, what that's like. So I was very new, and I thought cannabis had really been a very important part of my healing experience through my football career. And I was really new on this journey of figuring out what I was doing, and I thought, why not? I'm going to go to this conference, see what happens. I heard that Nate was going. You were going.
Yep.
I heard you were going. We met each other at the airport, and then shit, man, we've been on a few of those speaking things
Quite a few.
And now I consider you one of my best friends, man.
Hell yeah, man.
Fucking A, dude.
Yeah.
That's the shit, dude.
Yeah, dude,
Are
it's
you
cool.
kidding me? Now we're doing a fucking podcast
I know,
together.
right? This is pretty awesome.
It's awesome.
Because
And
what's cool to see is that, I don't know, like when you leave the NFL or football, I imagine a lot of other trades or lifelong
your
pursuits.
career or whatever
Yeah,
it is,
you get pulled out by the back of your shirt and they toss you out and you leave alone. And you don't have any resources. You don't have any lifelines. You don't have the team anymore. You don't have your buddies around. There's nothing. Like you said before, how tightly that ship is run.
Yeah.
Everything's on an itinerary. We know where we're going to be.
Tight as
You
hell.
go here and all your buddies are there, or you're
Yep.
there at the same time.
Yep.
You're going through these collective experiences with one another. Sometimes you get irritated at each other, but really they are a support system, and being around that many humans who are all moving towards the same goal is a powerful experience.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling.
No
when you're
doubt.
successful in that environment, it's a really good feeling.
It's amazing.
There's nothing better than like winning a football game with your teammates in the NFL. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah,
but
when
it's
you're out on the
amazing.
field and you're playing and you feel a part of that, it's empowering.
God.
So
Some of
you go
those-
from that stuff to taps, Mr. Jackson, they need to talk to you upstairs. Yeah, it's over, man. Good luck. By the way, you're sitting in a middle seat on the way home, and your flight leaves in 2 hours. Could you catch a cab? Because we don't have anybody to drive you, type of thing. That's how it ends for everybody. In one way or the other.
Thanks. We'll see you later.
Yeah, in one way or the other, it ends the same way for everyone, and that's
Bullet to the back of the
bullet to
dome.
the back of the head. Football players retire the way JFK retired from politics.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
it's true. It's very abrupt. It's
Just
abrupt.
like football players retire the way Tupac retired from music.
Holy shit.
It's over. You
No,
know,
you're right.
They want
I
to keep
mean-
going, and they can't anymore. They're taken out of it. And so anyway, I thought I was alone out there, and coming and meeting Eben and meeting some of these guys in this same mission has shown me that there was other guys like me that made it to the pinnacle of this one career, but also think a totally different way about it than what we're taught to,
Yeah.
and then what we're asked to, and what we're asked to continue reciting these lines, man.
Yeah.
You wonder why all these former players are on TV. It's because they stick to the script.
Right.
They're saying all the things that in the production meetings the producers tell them to say, or at least
Yeah.
hint that they should.
You have an agenda. You have somewhere to be. So
Right.
You know what you're doing.
But where's the dissent, Where's
Never.
like the trying to make things a little better for the young guys?
We'll see in many
So that's what we're
ways-
doing here.
Yeah.
And we can, I don't know.
And in many ways, smoking weed, it opens your mind to these other possibilities in life and the world. It has been that in my life, especially as an athlete, as a football player, who, even though, this first time I smoked weed, I was 14 or 15 in high school. I was super nervous, about the stigma, about my coaches finding out, about my parents finding out, anybody. I was really wary of that. I was very much affected by that stigma of like, oh, if you're a stoner, you don't play football, And so I carried that for a really long time, even really into my pro football career. And then at some point in my NFL career, I'd used it maybe once, twice in high school. In college, it was a little bit more. And then in the NFL, when I really started dealing with these injuries, I was smoking weed just about every day of every season of my pro career. And I would stop in that time period before that annual test would come, and I'd make sure I was good to go. And then when that test happened, I smoked weed, when I needed it. And, for me, I think seeing the movie North Dallas 40 really humanized the game of football for me. Up until then, it was really this, I felt as though it was this illusion around it of, it's all about the team. I was always a leader. I was always a team captain. I was always like the guy, fighting, like the coach's, like, right-hand guy, like totally believing in the coach and the mission and all that stuff. And so, for me, I think cannabis really opened my mind to, not only losing a taste for football and the violence, because for so long in my football career, I remember every game in high school, I was like, my mindset was I'm going out there to fucking rip somebody's throat out. Literally. I played offensive line, defensive line. I was long snapper.
And that's encouraged by your coaches.
Of course, that mentality.
Fans. Exactly.
That thing is, that's what it is, right? That's why we love the game. It's because it's fucking gladiators, man. This is the last gladiators on the planet. If it's not this, we're just going to be watching soldiers on the battlefield in war.
That'll come.
I'm sure it will. I don't.
Sports betting, man. They're going to have drones. They're going to have kills. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We already see it. I mean, with the internet and YouTube and access to all this shit, you can see that stuff, which is horrible.
What do you think about a future dystopian environment where they create actually like the playing field for battles between countries? They pick the weapons, they pick the soldiers, they pick the battlefield. They have betting on it.
Why not?
They televise it.
Trump
and that's how we settle
president.
that's how we settle national disputes.
I could see it happening.
Trump is our president.
Isn't it? Isn't it the truth? It's just that's where we're at. Yeah. We have exactly what we deserve, is the way I see it. Good or bad.
Sorry, Gandalf.
Sorry, Gandalf. Our beautiful gray Pitt in here. Jed's Pitt, our producer.
Yeah, our producer Jed's Pitt.
Jed,
Gandalf
give a shout out.
Just took a binder to the dome.
Sorry, Gandalf.
Gandalf was sleeping.
He's very sweet.
Was hypnotized by our words on the pod.
Nate, I mean, what do you think? I've read your books, read both your books, but for everybody listening, how did cannabis fit into your life and your football career? And, obviously you've really been a huge mentor for me through all this. So, I think it'd be great to hear you talk about your experience with cannabis as a kid.
Yeah, man. I didn't do it as a kid. I didn't.
A teenager.
Your experience with cannabis as an infant.
As a small child.
But so as a kid, I was a really very active kid. Loved playing sports. I was a swimmer. I was a soccer player. I played football outside. I played baseball outside. A lot of basketball. My parents wouldn't let me play tackle football though until I got to high school. So in middle school, I was just playing soccer and swimming and basketball. Not on the team, just out with my friends. But I was also kind of a mischievous kid. California, running around, you run into marijuana. It's just around.
Yeah.
And so I was familiar with it. I started kind of smelling it middle school. And then the summer before high school is when I first tried it. Coincidentally, the next month is when I first put on pads and a helmet. And then 1 month after that, my first football injury, a concussion at practice. During 7-on-7, this safety, my buddy now, just teed off on me. The ball was way overthrown.
Just lit you
up. I was
up.
5'7", 130 pounds, and he just lit me up. And I laid there. I could not get up. I was very dizzy. And eventually I got up, got to the sideline. I was all right. But for the next week, my head hurt. I had a concussion. So looking back on it, I am very thankful of that time 2 months before that with my buddies smoking my first joint. Because I believe, and now science is confirming some of these suspicions, that the brain is protected by by cannabis. So
it's actually amazing.
Right. So
I've
I'm going.
heard you tell that story.
And so, like, exactly. And so I feel that I was introduced to the plant and what it does for the body and the mind in a very real, visceral way right off the bat. And so for the next 15 years of football competition, that was my medication of choice. That's what I enjoyed using after games to kind of relax a little bit during the week. When I played in the NFL, I didn't smoke all year long. It was, for me, it was more of an injury or kind of like later in my career when I was starting to get tired and stuff, I would like right after training camp as the season would start at night, I would. But I was more, I was more, I believed in the football myth.
Right.
And I was so optimistic about that. I didn't even think about weed when I got to the NFL. In college, it was around a lot. Guys smoked it a lot. One thing I was interesting that I found is the higher up you go levels, the higher percentage on each team of guys use cannabis.
Yeah.
In high school, for me, it was maybe 20% of our team. College, it was more. The NFL was the most. But when I would get handed a bottle of pills after an injury in the NFL, I would take some of them, but I would never finish the bottles, and I would really just go home and smoke. And I always healed fast. I always had minimal swelling. Because I tore my groin off the bone, bang. Tore my hamstring off the bone twice, bang. I mean,
it's brutal.
Yeah, and I had lots of, like, I broke my ankle and just tore my MCL. A lot of, like, things that I felt were aided by consuming cannabis at night.
Yeah.
And I rested really well. Like, I always healed ahead of schedule, and the trainers were like, coming along great, Nate. Like, I went on injured reserve one time in week 5 for tearing the groin off the bone.
Ay.
But, yeah, it was awful. I was just
so
covering
brutal.
a kickoff, too, and it was
Ay.
pop! Yeah, and it was brutal.
I've had some bad stuff, but
Yeah.
a fucking groin coming off the bone is brutal, dude.
It was. You don't have the offensive linemen don't have to deal with those like high hamstring groin sprinter injuries.
Yeah. Those are definitely your sprinter, your horse injuries.
Because you're trying to run faster than you actually can.
Yeah.
Every day. Faster.
As fast as you can.
And then eventually it's just gonna say no.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm not doing that.
Well, that's like on the other side for an offensive lineman, it's like how many times can you smash into this brick wall?
Yeah.
With your face and chest as hard as you can. And, your back is going to go one day. That happened to me.
Right.
And then you have those problems.
And what they're discovering is that the helmet, once believed to protect the brain, doesn't.
Of course.
And so
not.
all those little
Can we talk about a little bit of, from our viewpoint, not as medical professionals, but as athletes who are very in tune with our body, talk about what's happening when a concussion is going on, because basically this brain that we've got, it's floating around in this bowl of fluid, our skull, right? And there's nothing keeping it in there, really. I mean, there's nothing keeping it from moving around. It's just in this kind of viscous fluid
goop.
So when you smash into another dude on the football field, a concussion occurs. The brain
every time.
I don't know. I mean, they say that
what
the forces,
is a concussion?
Exactly.
That's
because the forces generated between an offensive and defensive lineman is something like 5 or 6 G's of force is measured in that collision. And that's got to be doing something to our nervous system, to our spinal cord, to our head and neck for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not just these knockout blows that we see all the time that everybody loves to see, which, to be honest with you, man, I haven't been able to watch football in a little over a year. And it started with, going back to my high school and coaching the kids at my old high school. Anyway, that's for another time. But so the brain hits the inside wall of the skull, right? Damage occurs. Receptors in the brain start to release this stuff called glutamate. And glutamate is there to initiate the recovery process, but the problem is it's really toxic. So it starts to scar that brain tissue, and that's what they think is leading to the CTE, which all of our brothers are, killing themselves and having really dark times and really hard times in hard situations.
But what's weird, man, is that not everybody is symptomatic of the disease that they actually have. And so what's the difference? What's causing that? Because they've cut open 99 NFL players' brains and 94 of them are
97.
So the chances are, but not all those people were living destitute with
that's true.
razor blades on their
That's
throats.
absolutely true, which I think is, somewhat, an argument to the human spirit and each individual.
But it's also an argument to finding something else that you care about in life other than football and being excited about a new endeavor.
I love that.
Because when football's everything we have and it's gone and that's all we're ever going to have and all we do is think about how we get money out of them or who fucked us over or this or that.
That's very true what you're saying.
We get depressed, and that's a lot of the suicide comes from the depression of feeling like you are a worthless human being.
Right. Because you have nothing else.
Because you have nothing else to offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's very real the way you got treated, the difference between the way you got treated when you played and the day that you weren't anymore.
Right.
It was very different.
Very different.
No one gives a fuck anymore
that
you used to play football.
Right.
They want to see the jersey.
Yeah. Why don't you play anymore,
man?
They
want to see you on TV. Exactly. Well, you retired?
How many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
I think I heard that every fucking day.
You didn't want to play anymore? Yeah.
Wait, you're young. Why aren't you playing anymore? I don't know, because my fucking shoulder's been falling out of the socket. I've herniated discs in my back. I'm all fucked up and tired of it. I don't know.
Right.
Do I really need to keep going?
Well, inside there was that little boy that you explained, that 10-year-old who was moved by the gladiators on the screen, who's always in there tapping when you think about hanging him up.
Yeah.
That's what allow you to take the directions of a coach who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Or maybe he does, but why are you yelling about it? And we keep going. I knew all the stuff I know now about it, but I just never thought, I would never allow the thought inside because football glory was more important.
No question. And it was something that I aspired to. I wanted to be heroic. I wanted to be the guy, making the winning block with a broken arm, on in the winning to win the division title or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's the more hurt you were, the better.
Yeah, it's more amazing. It's more heroic. It's more exciting. And thank God, I think both of us, that we both were guys willing to use cannabis through that experience. Right. I know just for me, when I took those pills and being a guy who was very in tune with my body and the things I was putting into it, I was like, man, this shit's fucking me up. These anti-inflammatories I've got to take a handful a day to feel all right. And, what I've been reading about them, it says they're just destroying my liver and my kidneys. And, I've been shitting blood every once in a while. That really scares me. These are real things. And then you've got opiates that come into the picture, and those made me feel insane.
Did you tell the trainer about shitting blood?
I didn't. I mean, I was just, I had heard guys talk about it, and I was like, I guess I should just stop taking that as much.
Yeah. Have you ever shat blood after smoking a joint?
Never. Absolutely never.
I have. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't a joint.
And through that whole experience, feeling like these things, there was something wrong with taking these things. They made me feel like shit. They made me feel a really negative way. And then there was cannabis. I could smoke some weed and it made me feel super relaxed. And it took away that depression of being isolated and injury away from the team. Being on IR, it fucking sucks. It's miserable, and you really slip into depression. And for me, it's a lot of anxiety, and it helped me with that. It helped me feel better physically. It helped me sleep. And it was just overall, I thought, a much more positive substance in those really,
recovering from an injury.
Tough times.
Yeah. You got to offer that to patients who are recovering from an acute injury, because if they have a taste for it and they don't know it yet, and you give them 3 refills of 30 Vicodin each, they're going to become drug addicts.
For sure.
And we can avoid a lot of that by prescribing cannabis to patients who are dealing with injury. Pain, this is all about us being afraid of our pain. America's afraid to hurt. America's afraid to feel pain.
To feel struggle.
What is so bad about pain? Cry for a minute. Face it hurts.
It's amazing.
You have to feel the pain if you want to heal. To feel, you got to heal. To heal, you got to feel.
Yeah. It's totally true, though, man. It's very true. And we've gotten to this point in our society where we want everything to be really soft and easy and okay and gentle and be really comfortable. And that's really destructive to the human body, I think, and to the human mind.
Yeah, people are way tougher than they think they are.
Definitely.
You know, they're afraid to go through hardship and afraid you can experience intense levels of pain and be fine. In fact, you'll be stronger because of it. You'll be amazed what you can endure, and you get emboldened every time you endure something. And when you dull the pain or kill the pain, you don't feel it. You don't understand what's happening to your body.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Something I was thinking about on the car ride over here is that old saying I'm sure you heard 1,000 times too. Tough times don't last, tough people do.
That's right.
And it's absolutely true.
Right.
You know, it's one of those old sayings that's super simple, but it's absolutely true. You know, these tough times, any amount of pain you deal with or you suffer, it's not going to last forever. It's not permanent, you know, and if you're able to overcome it, and you will be if you just grind your way through it, you breathe through it. And that's a great thing I've learned to do in my life after football is breathing and breathing through things, giving yourself a pause, giving yourself a minute to think. You know, you can get through all this really tough stuff that happens to us in life. Life is fucking hard, man. No matter what you do. If you're the wealthiest person in the world, you're going to be dealing with all kinds of psychological fucked up shit you're going to have to be battling with your entire life. Sure, having money makes things much more easy, without question. It makes life easier, but there's still a whole human soul and a spirit and a mind that's got to be cultivated through this life.
And you have the inner struggle of each individual day. And each day can feel like a lifetime in which you're trying to fight down these urges, these demons, these tendencies that you might have to think of yourself in a certain light or to allow some momentum to take over. And you have to be positive. You have to will things into existence. The human mind can actually create action with
true.
thought. Thoughts are actions. And sports, anything you do, you have to see it in your mind. You have to visualize it. You have to will it. Every time I performed, that's all it was about, was my mind and believing that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then your body follows that belief. But you have to be able to feel to follow that. And the painkillers are dulling people. They're making them unaware physically, not only of their own body, but of their own surroundings, the world that they live in.
Yeah.
Timid individuals who could not defend themselves, who are weak, who if they fall off the curb will have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's what's happening out there. People aren't really paying attention.
They create victims, you know, these pills,
yes,
these things.
And they create billionaires, too.
That's for fucking damn sure. It's a shame, but it's true.
Yeah. So as we talk about these types of issues with football, with the NFL, we seek to just kind of connect the dots and help people with some perspective. I mean, for me, I want former players and current players to understand what they're putting in their body. That would be cool.
I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, because that information is kept from them by those who are actually supposed to be taking care of them.
Yeah, yeah. It's and it's even encouraged. You know, I remember when I was playing, coming into the training room in the morning, it was like, you know, do you have your pills? Did you take your pills? How are you feeling?
Right. It sounds like a fucking loony bin.
If you haven't,
did you take your pills?
Yeah, exactly. If
or an
you
old
haven't,
folks home.
and the sort of impression being made is, if you haven't taken your pills, don't come fucking talk to me. Don't come bother me because you haven't taken the initial step towards feeling better.
Because you don't care enough.
Because you don't care enough.
Yeah. You don't care enough to fuck yourself up forever.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun.
Yeah. But there's a life to live outside of that. And
there is. And I think that something you just touched on about former players, you know, starting to think about and starting to educate yourself on these things that you're taking, that you're putting into your body, understand what they are, understand what they do, understand the long-term effects. And once you do that, you know, it's pretty clear that these aren't long-term sustainable substances. You know, these anti-inflammatories and the opiates and all this shit. You know, these things aren't sustainable. They're incredibly toxic. They leave you more impaired than you were when you came into them with the injury. because now you're dependent on this shit. Your body's fucked up. It inhibits your body's ability to heal itself. And so, when you start to look at the science that we see all the time now on what cannabis is and what it can be, you start to really quickly understand that this is a medicine for athletes, really.
Really, yeah.
Something that for people who experience a lot of physical and mental trauma.
Yeah, they're used to pain. They're used to pushing through adversity and feelings, those walls.
Yeah.
Cannabis is perfect for athletes.
It is.
You're right.
It is. It's the perfect medicine for athletes.
Football players need to know that. They don't really know that. They use it, but they don't understand that the two are connected, actually.
Yeah.
The reason why they're excelling at football is because they're doing the right things for their body.
Yeah.
That allows them to sustain that repetitive brain trauma.
Yeah.
And body trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know,
to
man.
replenish.
Yeah, but it's hard to penetrate that NFL brand, that NFL armor. They're very paranoid, and they're very structured in the way that they carry.
They're scared of appearing, not totally clean cut and.
Well, they're now allowing advertising for liquor on NFL broadcasts, which they didn't in the past.
Right.
So any attempts to try to get them to okay cannabis will be met by the other side, which is their bread and butter, alcohol.
God. Yeah, their love.
Right, exactly. That's what
players are drinking Johnny Walker on the sidelines.
You should put it in the Gatorade buckets.
No, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
It's a fucking joke.
That's why, in my mind, it's important for former players. This worked for me, at least. When you're done with the game, in your mind, everything associated with the NFL brand, you got to burn it to the ground, gut it. Whatever they made you do, that made you feel, made you say, the things that you felt that were icky about it, the identity that you don't identify with anymore, all that stuff, you got to put it in a pile, throw gasoline on it, and fucking light it.
Fucking burn it.
Burn it, because you're going to see that you're still standing, and you're still that badass dude who they asked to come play with them.
Who fucking got there.
Yes. Yeah. Football did not make you great.
No.
You make football great.
It's something they love to brainwash you into. Protect the shield.
Yes.
Protect the shield.
Isn't a shield supposed to be protection?
Why am I protecting the fucking shield? Aren't I supposed to hold the shield and it protects me?
Right? They want us standing in front of the shield.
Well, it's
taking fucking bullets.
It's an interesting, psychological game in humility and ego, really. Being an NFL player and the way the NFL makes you feel about it. It's very much positioned as a privilege that you get to.
Oh yeah.
You get to come in and you get to enjoy this privilege of being a part of, probably the greatest sports organization the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
And that is true to some extent.
Yeah.
But you can never forget or, not acknowledge the amount of effort and fucking toughness and balls it took every single guy to get into that room. That wasn't just like, you just handed a guy, you just had a fucking giveaway NFL roster spot. This guy worked his ass off from the time he was probably 10 years old, 10 to 14 years old. This guy has worked his entire life to get there. You got to give that kid some credit, And then you hand him a check for $1 million and you say, here you go. Great job, kid. Now, you're an adult, figure it out. And that's creating this sort of beast.
Well, you're not
really
set up,
difficult to.
You're not set up to navigate those waters.
You're not at all.
You don't have the language of the life. You don't have the language of the real world that people speak about money, about social plans, about collaboration with women on projects that don't involve smashing people.
Yeah.
And so you leave into the real world and you have to use your words for the first time ever to come up with an idea that people will want to work you with.
You have to relate to people?
Yeah. Listen to them. Actually listen.
Actually listen to what someone has to say.
And not go back to these trigger,
responses.
Cliches. Yeah. You don't have football anymore. So what's it going to be like, When they ask you how it was, what are you going to say? It was great, right? How amazing was it?
It was the best, man. It was a dream come true, which it really was.
It's just more complicated than that.
It's much more complicated than that. Of course, it was a dream come true. And that's another thing, man, talking about the power of the human mind. When I sat down, because my wife, she's like, My wife is the most powerful, beautiful woman. I don't know if I'd be here right now without her, to be honest. Give a shout out to my wife.
Hey-o!
I had these stacks of notebooks with just shit in them, like notes, little notes and nuggets from my day-to-day experience in the league. Nothing super substantial. But, you know, I had majored in creative writing at Arizona. That was kind of my underlying passion. And my wife is like, look, man, you're done. Why don't you write a book? And I'm like, really? You think? So she convinces me to do that. The book is still, it turned into other things. And the book, I think, is something else now. But that being, that experience, sitting down to write the book, I remember going back to my first thoughts on football. It was everything in my mind was about making it to the NFL and envisioning myself playing in the NFL. And that idea of dreaming and envisioning the future that you want, right, and envisioning your success as a human being. You know, that's how I got to the NFL. Yeah, I'm blessed with a fucking body. I'm 6'6". I was 320 at you know, the peak of my physical prowess. And, you know, sure, I was gifted physically, but it takes so much more than that. You know, it takes fucking an everyday mindset of this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat, sleep, drink, fucking think football. And that's what I did from the time I was 13 or 14 years old until basically the day I was done. You know, it was everything I was doing was, how am I getting better to play football? What am I eating? How am I training? Am I lifting enough weights? Am I doing yoga? All that shit. It was about playing football. And having that vision in my mind, you know, my actions started to take over, and my actions started to lead me towards that vision. And, you know, that was really my experience thinking back of, how did I even get there? You
programmed it.
I programmed it, man.
Programmed it, and it's one of those industries where if you show potential at a young age, everything takes shape around it.
Yeah.
All you have to do is show up. You know where the team is, you're on the team, you start balling, people start coming, and shit just starts happening for you. And it's this momentum that's gathered around your football career, and it's like, it's happening, and you feel the juice, and then it happens, and then it burns out, and then it's over, and you're still a young man.
And you're like, what the fuck?
You're a young man who's never going to be able to do that thing again. Yeah. So what is the next thing? What is the next thing? And how do we arm the next generation of athletes to be prepared for that next thing, to find the next thing, which might relate to the thing they're great at in sports. But let's connect the mind in more ways than we do now. As it is now, a child shows he's good at baseball, but that's all he's going to be doing. He's going to be fucking playing baseball all year round. He's going to be going to baseball camps. They're going to have baseball tutors, baseball coaches. They're going to be watching baseball videos, baseball fucking tournaments, club sports. And this kid's going to fucking get Tommy John surgery at the age of 17. He's going to hate baseball. He's going to get into meth. He's going to kill himself by 23. This is what we're raising. With one-dimensional athletes who are forced to do the thing. I believe that we need to stimulate the minds of athletes in ways that are different from how they're being stimulated on the field, whether it's chess, put a puzzle. If I was a coach, football coach, I'd walk in one day and throw a puzzle to them and go, you guys are putting this puzzle together and you're not leaving until you do. No practice. You got to put this puzzle together. Use your fucking mind.
I think it's brilliant.
I believe that for guys in the NFL, if every day all you do is talk football, 275 days a year, whatever it is, every conversation is, now Eb, on this, you got, what do you got on this, Eb? What do you, and you're,
it would be hell,
right? So I would
program yourself early.
Yeah, man.
To have other interests. Yeah, have an art.
Pick up, art form, have a drum set, play guitar,
play music,
paint,
write
jokes. There's funny dudes.
Jokes, draw.
There's funny dudes in sports, in locker rooms. Be a stand-up comedian, man.
Some of the biggest personalities I've ever met were some of my teammates.
And we're performance artists in a way.
For sure.
And we don't get to perform, and so find another stage. Yeah. Essentially, find a place where you can do that moment, where you can be the hero or whatever it is. But, I guess that's why we're here.
That's why we're here, man. It's really fun to do this podcast. That's for sure. But another thing Nate and I have done together is we've created Athletes for Care, which basically we're envisioning it as, a resource for all athletes transitioning out of their career in sports, looking to re-identify themselves as a human being, in their life after their career. And so whatever that means, we have, Nate, do you want to talk about your art program? We have programs available. There's education. There's entrepreneurial programs.
There's a lot of work in the cannabis industry, which,
it very much stemmed out of the cannabis industry.
No pun intended. No seeds and stems. But yeah, it did. We met in this realm, talking about cannabis, talking about pain, talking about sports, and we started to realize that cannabis did connect us, but it was part of this broader theme of what now? Like, what are we doing, and how do we turn it inwards and be about the human being, the athlete, and helping them in life outside of the game? What did we need that we didn't have?
Right.
And what would we have liked, And so a program that I'm interested in developing is an art program. There are a lot of artists out there playing now, former players who really don't have any outlet for it, who never really, I think there's writers out there, comedians, like I was just saying, musicians. I think, a once a year type of boot camp where guys could come and learn an art, be connected with artists out there who could mentor them, let them know what to expect out here in the real world when it comes to selling their art is important too, because I had to learn the hard way about the book world and selling your work and publishing pieces online. There's a lot of nuance to it, and you can get fucked over a lot of times because people assume that we don't know. First of all, they assume we're all rich and don't need money.
Right.
And so in a service where they would typically offer someone money, they don't offer us money because they think we don't need it. And if we don't ask, they're not going to give it.
Exactly.
And so how to navigate these waters where we don't understand the language, the expectation, what's allowed, those things we'd like to help guys with.
Exactly.
And girls. I mean, we want to do women as well. I think all athletes can use Athletes for Care to help them.
Athletes, not only professional either, athletes from the collegiate level,
there
high school.
Are college athletes who leave with more injuries and more, brain problems than a lot of pros do.
For sure.
Just the way that these guys have been playing since they were 8 years old.
Yeah.
Until 22, that's 14 years of banging.
Yeah.
And sometimes those kids who just hit, and they always are able to take it. They're always the toughest one, but their brain is still being damaged by this.
Oh, very much.
And so collegiate athletes as well.
Yeah, and it's something that we wanted to create to establish a safe place for athletes, those people to come and get some help, get educated, have a resource, maybe find a new career, whatever it might be. You've got a lot of people who can relate to what you're going through.
Yeah. And we can get them on this podcast to tell us their stories.
Tell their story.
Yeah.
Which is something we're as this thing progresses, we want to bring on doctors, researchers in the cannabis space, entrepreneurs, some of our former athlete friends that we have.
Yeah.
We'll be looking to bring on a lot of guests and bring a lot of good content and information to you guys.
Yeah, there's definitely an information gap between athletes and the science that studies their bodies and their brains. And we want to be the bridge that connects them. Because there's no bureaucracy involved with what we're doing. We're not afraid of being sued. We're not trying to protect our ass in court. What we want is to help the mind, body, and spirit of the athlete. And so let's fucking do it.
Let's fucking do that.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Well, this was awesome.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Jed, next week, same time?
Yeah.
All right.
Same time.
Hell
Thank you,
yeah.
Jed.
Thank you, Jed.
You're the man.
We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to the Mindful Warrior podcast, brought to you by Athletes for Care, a health and wellness resource for athletes of all ages. Don't miss out on Nate's books, Slow Getting Up and Fantasy Man. Be sure to check out BringTheHurt.com, a pain advocacy platform dedicated to alternative healing practices. Visit BeTrueOrganics.com for all of your CBD needs. Use promo code Britton, all caps 10, for a 10% off discount.